So I'm doing some single point threading on my lathe today. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I have an Imperial lead screw with a thread dial. I was trying to figure out why I can't use this thread dial if I'm trying to cut metric threads. In my head, the RPM of the lead screw relative to the RPM of the work and the spindle is always going to be the same. So as long as I engage the half nut at the same tick on my thread dial every time, we should always be hitting the same point on our work every time. Intuitively, that kind of made sense to me. But that's not the case, and I was trying to figure out why. So I watched a few videos, and none of them really explained it very well. So I'm trying to explain this a little bit better, so maybe this can make a little bit more sense. So here's the issue. If I engage my half nut on this particular lathe, I go 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks on my thread dial. My carriage has moved exactly 1 inch, okay? So this is great for Imperial threads. Say I'm trying to cut 12 threads per inch. Okay, great. So I've set up my gearbox for 12 threads per inch. I turn on my lathe, I engage my half nut. Carriage starts moving. It moves 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks on my thread dial, and I've cut exactly 12 threads. This work has rotated exactly 12 times. So if I go back and I try to make my second cut, I can engage my half nut at exactly the same point here on my thread dial, and I will know that this spindle has rotated an even number of times. So we're going to be back in exactly the same starting point as I was during the first pass. So that's great, that works fine. Let's think about what happens though when we try to cut a metric thread. So to cut a metric thread, you have to put a conversion gear in the gearbox that converts between imperial and metric. And so let's say I'm trying to cut a metric thread that happens to be 1 millimeter pitch. Okay, so we know that there are 25.4 millimeters to an inch. So we're going to get a thread that is 25.4 threads per inch. Okay, great. So let's start doing this. So we turn this machine on, we engage the half nut, it moves 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks. Okay, now we have cut, so this has moved, the carriage has moved exactly an inch. So we have cut 25.4 threads in that 1 inch of movement, which means this spindle has rotated 25.4 times, not an even number. So if we go back and we try to engage again at the same tick mark that we started at on our thread dial, this spindle will have rotated some multiple of 25.4. Say it's rotated exactly 25.4. Well, now our rotation is going to be 0.4 off, 0.4 rotations off from where we started. Now you're going to cut a thread that's straight through the threads that you just cut. So that doesn't work. And that's why it doesn't work, because the conversion is not 1-to-1. You don't get an even number of threads per inch when you convert from imperial to metric.